Microphone. I think we can all hear me, right? Okay. But I really want to thank you all for coming out today and showing your support. It is greatly appreciated. And obviously, the reason we're having this press conference today, your support is even more appreciated. So thank you very much. But first of all, I'd like to introduce my family. This is my daughter, Megan, who... My daughter Megan, as most of you know, just recently graduated from the University of Florida and is now an engineering consultant up in Atlanta. And my wonderful husband Randy of 12 years. He's very supportive, and any of the signs that you see around town, most of you know that he has put up every single one. He has definitely been a big help. But part of the whole reason that we came out today was there's a couple different points that I want to make, and I want to make sure that my voice is heard, because up until now, I've been having a lot of questions asked, and people have been saying, well, you haven't really been getting your story out. Number one, we don't really know you, so I'd like to explain a little bit about me and my background today so you understand me more as a person, but also to really respond to some of the negative stuff that's been coming out and get that aspect out too, because right now I think it's extremely one-sided and a lot of misinformation. So since the primary, where I beat my opponent with 43% of the vote, my family and I have had to endure humiliating and hateful attacks about me personally, and the ads have been widely published and republished in the media. And my first inclination was to ignore Al Smith and to ignore the special interest PAC and to just, but now it's just truly gone too far. So, this is one of the pieces. I think there's a number of pieces that have been out. I'm sure you've all seen them in your mailboxes. A lot of money spent on these. And I'm actually here today to answer some of these questions and set the record straight. So let's talk about the ads. These ads are trying to portray me as a misfit and him as a paragon of virtue. This could be no further from the truth. They are patently misleading. Let me start. I'm going to start on a couple points. So my career in law enforcement, this is something I'm very passionate about, actually very passionate about. For anyone to minimalize my career over 2 decades, and again, they say, well, 2 years at VCSO, at the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, and this many years at Brevard County SO, or this many years at Edgewater PD. I worked over the course of 2 decades in law enforcement, and for them to minimalize my career over the course of those 2 decades is highly offensive to me, and it's also offensive, I think, to all the men and women who put their lives on the lines every day to protect everyone in Volusia County. I've struggled as a woman with promotion and advancement in my career, in a man's world, and there's a couple things that I want to point out, because again, the only thing that's been coming out about my career has been very misleading and very negative stuff. My background in law enforcement is amazing. In the last 2 years of my law enforcement career, I was at Volusia County Sheriff's Office. I was nominated Deputy of the Quarter, which is very rare. Randy can attest to that. For any deputy ever to be nominated for Deputy of the Quarter. And I was there 2 years. So to be nominated for Deputy of the Quarter, to receive commendations from the U.S. Marshal Service, from probation and parole, lots and lots of letters of commendations and things. And I would just like to point this out, and you guys are more than happy to go through here. This is my record of my commendations and certifications from those 2 decades in law enforcement that I would carry to court to be able to show, here is my background and to testify in lots of the cases that I did. So that's my background in law enforcement. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a little passionate now, but the issue about drug use. Can tell you unequivocally, I am not a crackhead. I've never been cited for drug use ever anywhere in my whole career. And the one thing I can say is I would like to ask Al right here, right now, let's ask Al. I went through all these, I went to a couple different agencies throughout my career, throughout my law enforcement career. Every time you go to a different agency, you have to take drug tests. Every time you go to a different agency, you have to take background checks. I passed all of those. VCSO never complained about any past drug use. They never complained about anything in my background. They hired me, I worked there, and I did very well. I would like to say right now, I'm willing to take a drug test today, a hair follicle test, which will show, however many months back, that there are no drugs in my system. And I truly think that Al Smith would not. But if he would like to do that, I'm absolutely in agreement to go out and do that right now. So
I think he should do it too.
We'll just,
Sure.
yes.
Yeah. The allegations, Heather, was about drug use when?
Oh, so that's another interesting thing. The paperwork that is being reported, apparently people are not looking, didn't take my age into consideration when this paperwork was created, because they're alleging that my drug use was when I was 11 years old. So
wow.
I apparently did coke when I was 11 years old. And I can tell you, and I'll explain a little bit more about my background, but I had a hard life, and it wasn't a good family, and I'm getting very passionate again, but my parents weren't dopers, and I didn't do drugs when I was 11 or 12 or on and on. So anyway, let's see.
Why don't you
Okay.
start at 14? Remember?
Okay.
We'll just
All right,
leave
so
it
let me
at
just tell you about my background. So I left home at 14, literally left home a week after my 14th birthday, and have been on my own ever since. I have, basically raised myself, got jobs right away, took care of myself, was homeless on the street for a little while.
Why is
jobs.
any of this even relevant to you running for public office now?
Well, that is a good question. So what I would ask is, why aren't we focused on policies, and why are we focused on all this ridiculous stuff? Why are we focused on all this hate? And where is the focus on policy? The reason that Al Smith is not focusing on policy is because he has none. And in addition, he has no record to run on. So he has to come up with all of this stuff and put it out in the public over and over and over again in order to try and win at the last minute. And I have to say, I see it as a move of a very desperate person, and as a very desperate campaign, and as a...
But let her finish. Heather, you were on a roll. They're alleging repossessions and evictions and foreclosure as though this is derogatory information. Why don't you tell the media and the supporters about that?
So
Is that derogatory?
No, I will agree to, I will say, yes, I was evicted from an apartment. Yes, I did have a repossession 20 years ago when I was working my rear end off to raise my daughter. So, I'm going to get very passionate now, but...
Don't get too passionate.
But as you can see, Megan has turned out absolutely amazing.
Your daughter
I
was
think.
living with you when you were evicted?
Absolutely, yep. And, she's going to grant it. Even when we came to Volusia County, we were struggling. When I worked at Edgewater PD, not a lot of people know this, but my daughter went, she had the opportunity to go to Yale, I can't look at her, but she had the opportunity to go to Yale over the summer, and, I was on the road, I was working road patrol, and I lived without electricity all summer, so that she could go to Yale over the summer.